It's time for ROTD Weekend. I am back from my vacation, and boy, oh boy, did I ever relax. You know, I'm not a huge cruise person, but this one was different. It was 9 nights and not a lot of ports, only 4 of them. So just lots of long sea days with not much to do, and I really relaxed. It was a Virgin cruise. If you've ever done one of those or heard of them, I really, really loved it, and I am looking forward to doing another one, which is not something I thought I'd ever say about a cruise. My past experiences have been kind of rushed and chaotic. This was very different. But then I got home and was sort of thrown head on into craziness. Both of my kids were leaving 2 days after we got back for a school trip, an international one. And so there was just a lot of packing and little details and things to do. And also grocery shopping, and the fridge was empty and there were just meals to cook. I hadn't cooked in 10 days. It was just really, really chaotic and sort of jarring, and I got a little stressed out. And so really right now, my goal for the next few days while they are away is to try to breathe. I literally put my legs up the wall. Do you know what that is? It's like a yoga position where you're an L shape with your back on the floor and your legs up the wall. And I just breathed for 5 minutes and decided that I'm going to do that every day, and just really trying to focus on healthy, fresh ingredients. When they're not here, I'm cooking for just 2 or 3 of us. We have Olivia, my bonus teen, with us. She's not on that trip. So it's just 2 or 3 of us generally. And what that means is that there are less people's food issues to deal with. My son doesn't like bell peppers, and my daughter doesn't like pizza, and Marty doesn't like a variety of things. And then I'm always trying to get, balanced meals, and I like a lot of fish and greens and grains. I naturally like those things, but I don't get to have them because not everybody else likes them, Anyways, when we reduce the number of people, we reduce the number of hoops we have to jump through to get everybody eating all of their meals. And just I don't know, I just find it a little bit easier. So the next few days while my kids are still gone, I am focusing on doing legs up the wall and breathing for at least 5 minutes a day. I have been going for the walks that I promised to do back in December, but then didn't do. I have been doing those since I've been back. And I'm also just trying to eat those slightly healthier meals that are kind of easier to do and accommodate the 2 or 3 of us who are here. So that is what I am doing, and hopefully everything will recalibrate. I went from extreme relaxation to kind of crazy back to work, back to life, helping my kids' stressfulness, and now I need to find the happy medium somewhere in between, right? I hope that you had a relaxing bit of time after the holiday season, and that you are also finding a good happy medium now that we are back to normal life. Now, as we look ahead to the new year, to 2026, I have a favorite guest back again, a brand new conversation. It is between me and Mike Kostyo, the Vice President of Menu Matters. He is a food trends expert. He works with all kinds of restaurants and brands, and he is here to tell us what we can expect to see on our shelves and on our menus in 2026. Let's listen. Hello, Mike. Welcome back.
Thank you so much for having me back. It's always one of my favorite podcasts to be on.
Oh, thank you so much. And you're one of my favorite guests to have on. Especially, so right now, it's towards the end of 2025 that we're talking. Mm-hmm. This is going to go live right at the beginning of January. But you are right now talking with restaurants and brands about the trends that you're seeing in food for 2026. You're in the thick of this right now, right?
Mm-hmm. Yes, absolutely. So actually what we do is we do a big consumer survey at the end of the year to understand where consumers' heads are at. So what are they thinking? What are they wanting? What are their emotional need states as we head into the year ahead? And then we use that information with clients to figure out, okay, what should restaurants look like in 2026? What should the menu look like? What should the products that we put on supermarket shelves look like? So when we were heading into this year, the thing that we heard from consumers over and over was they were ready for some new ideas, post-COVID, some of the stressful things that they had experienced over the previous few years. We had gone all in on comfort foods and nostalgia, and consumers were finally like, okay, the food industry, I need you to go innovate. I need you to show me some new stuff. So that was kind of our main consumer need for this year. And it's still something that we see. Obviously, we didn't fully solve that in 1 year. But heading into the 2026 and kind of what consumers are thinking, the thing that we're seeing right now is a lot of distrust from consumers. And that's kind of in a really wide ranging, almost like view of the industry. We're always looking for indicators, so data points that kind of showcase where people's heads are at. And the one that really stood out to me that I saw in a news article was that 77% of people who are on the internet said that they had been duped by AI at some point over the course of the year. And we saw that video of the bunnies jumping on the trampoline. I think, that was one of the first things where people were like, okay, AI has gotten to a quality where I now have to question everything I read, everything I see, every video, every photo. And I don't think people understand how destabilizing that is. We are on screens for 8 hours a day, and now we have to question all of that information. And I think it trickles down to the food industry. We've certainly heard from consumers that they don't necessarily trust the ingredients that are in food, of course. We see the arguments around seed oils and clean ingredient lists. And so our big consumer need state heading into 2026 for our clients is give the consumer something real. Make sure that you're showcasing to the end diner, wherever that may be, in a restaurant, in their home kitchen, that you are using real products, real ingredients, that you stand behind them. I think the thing that we often forget is that we eat our own food. We work in the food industry, but the products that we create, I use in my home kitchen. And so we want to stand behind those products and showcase to people that there's a real person making real food with real ingredients behind it.
Oh, that is so fascinating and ties in. I hadn't expected this conversation to go in this direction. Literally, I was having a conversation with somebody yesterday who loves Facebook and is on Facebook all the time and gets their recipe ideas and things from there. And she said, I don't click on recipes on Facebook anymore because she clicks and it doesn't match the picture. She clicks, it's not what she expected. It's not real. It's not whatever. And she's like, I look at it now, I scroll for my ideas, but I don't click on those recipes. I don't trust those people. And I'm one of those people, but that's okay. I don't trust No, sorry. To be clear, I'm not somebody using AI at all for anything, but I'm one of the people that I think she's scrolling past.
Yes,
and that's crazy.
Course, absolutely. Isn't it? Well, and, we actually do use AI. We for very particular things. So, it does a really great job making sense of huge amounts of data. So we can feed massive amounts of data and say, okay, extrapolate some of the themes in here. We actually do use it as a precursor to innovation to push, chefs and companies to actually think beyond the norm. So we will ask an AI system really weird questions. We'll be like, what would a burger look like if it was a hat that you wear? Or what would pizza look like if it was gloves? And then it creates an image, and then you start innovating against that. So we actually did this years ago, and we saw this image of pizza gloves, and they look disgusting. It's like a glove, and it's dripping cheese and marinara sauce. But we were talking in the room, and the chefs were like, okay, it kind of reminds me of, I don't know if you remember, Popeyes did those chicken rippers years ago, and it kind of looked like a hand. It was like, 5 fingers, chicken fingers that were coming off of kind of a main piece of the meat, and then you would rip them off and dip them in the sauces. And so we were like, okay, what would it look like if you had like a pizza version? So could you do like pizza rippers? And then like the end result ended up being like a pizza sampler where you get like 5 pizza sticks in a box and it's 5 different flavors. So it was using AI to kind of push the chefs to think through new ideas. So I think there are uses for it. Do I think we've gone all in and kind of, used AI in ways that aren't necessarily beneficial and have people questioning the reality of everything? Absolutely. There's no doubt about it.
Yeah. No, and I use, sorry, I said I don't use AI. I mean, very specifically, I don't use it like my recipes aren't created in that way. They're tested and developed and everything. But I use it, even in recipe writing, very rarely. But sometimes I'll come upon an instruction. I just had one actually where it was, you open a can of pineapple and scoop out some of the juice and use some of that juice and then you use the pineapple later. And I was having trouble explaining like which juice you're discarding and which one you're keeping. And I was like, oh, this is going in there. And this like
Perfect.
one beautiful
Yes.
sentence comes out. And I'm like,
Right?
yeah, oh.
That's a great use case. Yes, exactly. Like, the thing that you always hear is like use AI to free up humans to do what they do best. But I do think that's true. Like there are so many things that we do that are painful and annoying and not fun at all. So if we can use AI for that, great. And then, humans are super creative. Can we free up our time to be more creative, to create and innovate new things? I mean, that speaks to our 2025 need state was, create new things and give consumers new innovative products.
Yeah. So, okay. So people aren't as interested in new right now. They want to trust and they're
Yeah.
looking for real ingredients. So that's kind of like an overall thing. Are there examples of that or specifics where you're seeing that come through?
Yeah, I know everybody's like, how do you even do that? How do you showcase to somebody, okay, that it's real? And so when we ask consumers, and like I said, the survey's in the field, so we've asked questions like this of consumers. When you think of brands, what are brands that come to mind that you think are really real? But the through line that comes up over and over and over is that there's a real person behind it in some way. So a lot of times when we'll talk to, whether it's a small independent restaurant in one town or even a massive, massive manufacturer that makes, the food brands that we know and love, there is somebody, there's a chef behind that product that thought of it. There's a chef team that came up with it. And so showcase those people. I remember we did a study years ago and we asked consumers, when you think of a brand that's real to you, a restaurant brand, what comes to mind? And the number one was Culver's. And so we asked a follow up and we said, why? And they said, well, I see the farmers. They put their farmers in their marketing. When you walk into the restaurant, it's showcasing the farmer. And they really are real farmers that Culver's uses. And so when you walk in there, okay, that burger that I'm going to get, the butter that's on top of it, the cheese on top of that all came from a person that I've seen there. I know that they're talking to those farmers. And so to the extent that you can, showcase those real people, that's one way to do it, certainly.
Oh, wow. That's very interesting. So it's not even about like, these are our ingredients. It's really these are coming from real people.
Sure.
Real people. Yeah.
I mean, if anything, the number of brands that we work with that have kind of these 5 to 10 year promises. In 5 years, we're going to make sure that all of our ingredients are clean and that you can pronounce them and, things like that's another tactic. Absolutely. I mean, just for the amount of information that we're inundated with these days, it's so hard for any consumer to go in and read the ingredient list in every single product that they're going to buy. So if you're a brand and you can say, hey, everything on the shelf that we put on the shelf is something that you know and can pronounce and would use in your home kitchen, it's a shortcut that actually is very helpful to the end consumer.
No, that makes so much sense. So then what about some specific trends, maybe in terms of ingredients, flavors, international cuisines?
Yeah.
Where are we heading in 2026?
It was so interesting. We go to a lot of trade shows and that's kind of where we see a lot of the trends happening. And I think this was the year that both myself and Maeve Webster, the head of the company, felt like we had seen a real turning point in the shift towards Mediterranean cuisine. So we'd certainly seen over the years, hummus and tahini and flavors like that. But we were at the IDDBA show, which is the International Deli, Dairy, and Bakery Association. So it's all of those, the bakery in your supermarket or the deli case in your supermarket. All of those brands are at this show. And so for the previous few years, everything that you saw there was Mexican or Asian inspired in some way. So whatever that means, Southeast Asian or Chinese or Japanese. This year we saw a huge shift. The number of products that were on offer that were Mediterranean or Middle Eastern, that we really saw a shift in kind of how they were being portrayed, which was that these were vibrant, flavorful ingredients and dishes, but also very healthy for you. Again, you can feel good about eating it. So I think we will start to see that shift trickle down more and more to the big box stores, the Walmarts and Targets of the world. You'll start to see a lot more of those products. I think, restaurants, we already have a few of those fast casual brands like Kava and things like that. I think we'll certainly start to see a lot more of those. When you look at college campuses and even high schools across the country that have, some of those, little food hall-esque kind of areas that the students can go to, there tends to be, Middle Eastern bowl concept or Mediterranean bowl concept or wrap concept because it is, it's healthy, but it's vibrant and exciting. So certainly, if you're going to place bets on it, I would say you're going to see a lot more of those Mediterranean, Middle Eastern flavors hitting menus.
I want to riff on this a little bit, and I could be way out there. And I maybe don't mean this about Middle Eastern as much as I mean it about Mediterranean. But I'm wondering if there's a trust overlap there in that Mediterranean. I mean, Olive Garden Italian, like we've known these things for a long time, and it's like that thing we know and trust and love, but which was maybe getting boring given this fresh, vibrant spin, but we still trust it. Like, oh yeah, I know what that is.
Absolutely. I think that's spot on. I think, you hear the blue zone, argument all the time. When
Uh-huh.
I think of Mediterranean now, I think of blue zone diets and hearing, the stories of people live until 100 in those countries. But I also think it's exactly what you're talking about. When we're very, very familiar, for the longest time, Italian cuisine was the most consumed cuisine in the US. That's what we ate. We ate pizza and spaghetti. And millennials, that was the first generation. We saw that changing. So they started to prefer Mexican cuisine a little bit more. And then Gen Z, we see Mexican and Asian rising to the top. And so what happens on our side of the industry, if you work in Italian cuisine or some of those more well-known ones, you have to innovate. You have to showcase to those consumers, okay, we can be just as vibrant, just as interesting. And so you see a lot more regionality. So, I'm going to showcase to you Sicilian cuisine, and we're going to do a Sicilian dessert. Or like you said, calling out the breadth of Mediterranean cuisine and what that looks like. Now you see on Italian menus, it's vodka sauces and it's burrata and it's those next level versions of the spaghettis and mozzarellas that we're all familiar with.
So it's not all Italian restaurants with chicken parm. They have something else.
Yes, yeah. Well, there's a place for all of this
Yes,
too.
yeah.
I always say it's not like Italian cuisine's gonna die. Pizza's delicious and we eat it all the time, but is there a place for innovation within that cuisine? 100%, absolutely.
Okay,
And
so
even thinking through too, I think one of the areas, like when you think about those deeper consumer needs, one of the things that we see in younger consumers, but consumers overall, is the demand for really bold flavors. So you certainly see that in the demand for spice. We are a country that eats very spicy, hot things in a way that we didn't 30, 40 years ago. So if you think about Italian cuisine, it's never really been a cuisine that you think of as being very spice driven or heat driven. But there are parts of the country and there are cuisines, regional cuisines within Italy that have very spicy flavors, Calabrian chilies, Induja. And so there's an opportunity to think through, okay, consumers today want very spicy flavors. They love Italian cuisine. Maybe, we up the chili level on this pizza. You of course see hot honey on all these pizzas today. So there's an opportunity to kind of innovate against those deeper needs within any of these cuisines.
Oh, I love that. Okay, so some innovation in Mediterranean and Italian. And are there any specific, like, I'm thinking like dips or sauces or ingredients? Like, the hummus, we all know hummus, but is there some new, the next of those sorts of things? Are you seeing anything like that?
I think the hard thing is these days for us is, that was what drove the industry for so many years. What's the next thing? And we've gotten so kind of trend centric that we are chewing up and spitting out trends in record time. I think like Dubai chocolate is the greatest example of this. It pops up and people see it on TikTok. And now, every third store that you go to has Dubai chocolate. There's Dubai chocolate milk on the shelves. And so as opposed to saying that, okay, here's a trend and it's going to be the next big thing, trying to figure out, again, what are these bigger themes, but how do we kind of take these ideas and innovate against them in a way that's not just putting the thing on the menu over and over or putting that product on the shelf. So I have to say, gotten a little bit more hesitant about being, this is the next big sauce or this is the next big, just because, I think if sriracha had come out today, we would hot honey it, it would be here and dead in a year or two because we would stick it into every product under the sun.
Yeah, it's like the TikTok effect, right? It just comes and goes so fast and you need the next thing. So quickly. I will say though, Mike, and people will remember this because you were on here, maybe the first time we talked, and you were the first person I'd ever heard mention the phrase ranch water.
The ranch water, sure.
And I'm not kidding, within 3 months, was seeing it on every menu. Like, I'd never seen it before. And then all of a sudden, I'm saying to my boyfriend, I'm like, Marty, ranch water again. Ranch water again. He's like, you're obsessed with this ranch water. I'm like, no, I'm obsessed with Mike. He was right.
But that's a great example, though, is that we went overboard on it. You saw it on everybody.
Yeah.
It was everywhere, I know, we never say a trend is bad. Dubai chocolate is delicious. Hot honey is delicious. We need to be more thoughtful about whether we should leverage that. A lot of the innovation work that we do with clients, they are starting with ranch water is the trend. We need to figure out what to do with it, as opposed to thinking through, does this make sense for my brand? Is this something that our consumer base really wants from us? Should I shove ube in the pizza that we make? Or, I think we just need to be a little bit more thoughtful about some of these. They're not necessarily a bad idea. Ranch water is delicious. It's just we don't need to necessarily shove it into, every product that we make.
Yeah. No, it's so true. The brand alignment for everything. I think like for what I do too, there's so many trends that I see I don't really do TikTok, but I'll see the trend and I'm like, ooh, yeah, I want to do that recipe. And then I think about it like, that doesn't make any sense for my readers. There's no way they want, they don't want me to start baking with Dubai chocolate for that matter. Like, I don't do sweets. I don't, like it's just not. So yeah, just figuring that out and seeing it. And I guess people, like, it's almost like the micro markets, right? They're going to love you because you fit their like personality. So then you have to keep doing that personality. You can't go out there somewhere.
I love that you said that. So we have that bigger need state, which is give the consumer something real. And then within that, we come up with these kind of smaller ones. And one of them is to understand the consumer and who they are at the end of the day, because it's exactly what you just said. Everybody's needs are different. We're all, I think, particularly in younger generations, because of cringe culture, and they're afraid to put themselves out there. And I think you're starting to see them trying to figure out, who am I? What is my place in the world? Years ago, when I was in high school, and not to be like, back in the day, but, you think through, and we had, the jacks and the nerds and the goths, and we've kind of sanded down some of that differentiation in people because they're so afraid of cringe culture and to put themselves out there. And so now one of the questions in our survey is there a tribe that you identify with? It can be, I'm a pet parent. It can be, I love to go to Renaissance fairs, but trying to think through, okay, if we're going to make a product for somebody where their pet is the center of their lives and they feel that it's such a meaningful part of their family, what does that look like for a restaurant? What does that look like for a brand that makes, boba tea, whatever it may be? Yeah. I think it's exactly what you just said. It's about making a more meaningful experience that understands the person at the end of the day.
Oh, I love all of this. Always so much great information. And Mike, you are one individual with your own personality too. Did you bring us your own Mike recipe to share with us today?
I did. And I have to say, after last year's where I did yogurt made in the Instant Pot, the number of people that I had reach out to me through the podcast about making yogurt, I loved it. It was great.
That's
and
so
I haven't
great
made it in a while. I've gotten away from it. But so I was thinking through, and I was trying to figure out something that is an easy weeknight dinner that I make all the time and is a go-to. And for me, one of the options is Papillote cooking. So the French technique of cooking, it's normally fish, but it can be kind of any protein or vegetable in paper. That's literally what en papillote, translates to. And I use it all the time because one, it takes 15, 20 minutes. Two, it uses whatever you have in the refrigerator. I have a little garden at my condo. And so in the summer, I have cucumbers and tomatoes and all kinds of vegetables coming out. And so I can throw them into the little pocket. And three, it's so forgiving. You're steaming. And so really what you're doing is you're taking a piece of parchment paper or even foil, if that's what you have. You're putting, a little kind of aromatic on the bottom. So lemon, citrus is usually the go-to. Putting a protein on top of that tends to be fish, but you can do whatever you want. And then, some veggies on top of that, and then a little bit of liquid. And then you're folding it over the top, crimping the edges, and you're putting it into the oven for, 10, 15, 20 minutes, depending on how thick the protein is, at 375-ish. And I think the nice thing about it is it makes its own sauce. So whatever you're putting in there, you're putting tomatoes and lemon and all of that, the flavor from it is coming out. Two is you're steaming, and we tend to not use steaming very often in the U.S. You see it so much, obviously, in Asian cuisines. You certainly see it in restaurants that have combi ovens. And so it's an easy way to steam. So super, super healthy, but also super great way to infuse all of those flavors into the protein or whatever you're cooking. And then three is that you can experiment with whatever you want. You put coconut milk in and make a Thai version, whatever you want, wine in it, put that on top. Whatever spices that you've had sitting in your pantry, you want to sprinkle those over the top. The world is your oyster as far as the flavor profiles that you can put into it. So I would say, it's a technique that I use once a month. It's such a go-to for me. And you just feel good about eating it, and it looks great when it comes out of the little foil packet or parchment packet.
So it comes all puffed and you serve it at the table and open it up.
Oh, exactly. And isn't that fun too? Making something experiential for your family. Yeah, give them a little knife cut into it. And you're right. When it comes out of the oven, it is puffed puffed up. So there's this visual indicator of the steaming that happened. There's just something creative about it as well.
Oh, I love that. Do you have a favorite combination that you do?
Absolutely. So I think my probably go-to is lemon on the bottom, I just love whitefish. So cod, whatever you had. Salmon is I used to do a salmon share that would cost, so I used it all the time. But for me, a whitefish, like a cod on top of that. And then whatever veggies I have on hand. So peppers. I think the most important thing is understanding that the veggies or whatever you put on top needs to cook in the time that fish is going to cook. So if you put potatoes on top, they're going to have to be cut into really thin matchstick pieces in order to cook in 10 to 15 minutes. And so, but peppers and onions are my go-to on top of that. And then a little glug of wine and a little bit of mustard. And then whatever spices that I have on hand, pepper, whatever. And then if you throw some cherry tomatoes in there, you will get this mustardy cherry tomato lemon sauce that's just delicious. If you have herbs, if you're fresh herbs on your back porch or in your kitchen, throw some dill in there. Absolutely delicious.
Oh, that sounds amazing. I actually have not done on Papillote dinner. I think it's possible since my kids were born. This is something that I used to do.
They would love it. Yeah.
I know. So it's like 17 years since I've done it. So I have to... And I'm trying to think why. Like, why would I not? But anyways, I am excited. I'm going to give this a try because I haven't thought about it in so long. And maybe it's a new trend coming back to my...
Maybe. Absolutely. It's funny you said that because Cracker Barrel, not to talk about a controversial brand from 2025, but Cracker Barrel did these campfire meals years ago where they were actually cooked in aluminum foil. And it was exactly like the hobo packs that you would make when you're camping. And so it had a protein chicken or sausage and it was all cooked in the little foil packet. And when I was at my previous position, it scored through the roof. And it's the simplest, it's sort of meat and potatoes, but it's just cooked in a foil packet and served that way. And the thing that made it score so well is that experiential element. It's coming out, you open it up and you get that aroma of it. So I think it's something that whether you're a single person and you just want something impressive or you want something that'll make your family get really excited, it's just a great option.
I love that. But now I have one more question. I want to go back to trends. Yeah. I can't remember if we talked about this, and we might have, or if it was a different conversation I had, but there was this trend in the experiential service, like where tableside things to the point where the like big chains were doing it too. I've had smoked old fashions brought to me and gun smoked tableside and things like that. I was wondering if when I started seeing it everywhere, if that was a sign that it was going to start declining everywhere, or is it growing bigger? Do you have thoughts on that?
No, yeah. I mean, I do think it's growing bigger. I think people are looking for different ways of coming at, not every brand needs to have a tableside martini card or dessert card or whatever. So I love a tableside martini card. Yeah. But that experiential need that consumers have, particularly at a time when we're so price conscious and you're looking for, I'm not just going to a restaurant to, feed myself, but I'm also going there for an hour to be fed and have that relaxing experience. And that's part of the value proposition. I mean, we saw that with Chili's this summer where, they did really well because part of that $10.99 meal was you get a server and they come to your table and they're refilling those chips all the time. And, a $10.99 burger meal is twice as expensive as what you get at a fast food burger restaurant. And yet the value is there because it's that service element. And, we think all the time, actually in our last trend report from this year, we saw consumers who were having really bad restaurant experiences from a sensory standpoint. They were going in and they were seeing that they were ordering on a kiosk and then the order was ready and it would come up on their phone and they would get it from a cubby and then they would go eat at their table and they would scroll through TikTok on their table. And what a bad restaurant experience you're having. And so then we were looking at, what are the types of experiences that got them to put down their phone, that got them to get more engaged in food. And it tended to be what you're talking about. I have to touch the food. I have to have somebody comes to the table and I'm going to converse with them. So in a time when we're on screens for 8 hours a day, do I think those sensory experiences are still going to matter to consumers? Yes. But do I think they'll change? Absolutely as well.
Yeah. Oh no. Well, I'm excited because I love when a server's coming at me with something interesting and I wasn't expecting it. Yes. Suddenly my drink is changing color before my eyes or there's fire.
No way. We're at the end here, but I know we actually did a survey and we asked about a bunch of sensory experiences that consumers like. For Gen Z, for younger consumers, number one was those smoke release cocktails. And I think they're coming of age and it's something that they've seen older consumers experiencing that they want to try. But the number one overall was sizzling fajitas. Consumers just love the idea. They love that it comes out, they hear it, they smell it, the entire restaurant turns. So you don't even have to do something crazy to get people to kind of pay attention to their meal and food experience.
Oh, interesting. And maybe just singing happy birthday in the restaurant, right?
Like absolutely. Absolutely. Yes.
All of that. Well, I love it. It's been so great talking with you again, Mike. Thank you so much. Do you want to let people know where they can contact you if they want to ask about any of this or your own Papillote dish? Where should they go?
Absolutely. Yes. Yeah. So our website is menumatters.com. From there, you can see all the research that we did this year. And then the new report that I spoke about will release probably sometime in December. But I would say the best way to connect with me is on LinkedIn. I post every day, every Friday. I put a Friday 5 of interesting things that I've seen. And I'm super available. So if you want to send me a message, you can DM me through LinkedIn as well.
Wonderful. I'll put the link to Mike's DM in the show notes for everyone. Thank you so much, Mike. Happy New Year.
Happy New Year. Thank you for having me.
Wow, so great. I have to say, the idea of sriracha coming out today and not making a big splash and not becoming super famous and something that is like always on the door of my fridge, that makes me sad. I'm glad it had its time when it did so that it is part of all of our lives. But I totally know what Mike is talking about. We don't just want to see the same things everywhere and we don't want everything to feel like mass produced. We want to know the idea behind things, where it came from, who it came from, all of that just a little bit more authentic when we eat out. I say that to Marty quite often, actually. Like, I don't eat out very often because I don't like to go to restaurants as a way to like fuel myself. I cook a lot. I cook well. You guys know that. It doesn't make sense to stop at like a Tex-Mex place on the way home and grab a quick dinner when I know that I have the ingredients here and I can do it just as well, probably more healthy, possibly tastier too, from home. So I don't tend to eat out for just that fueling unless I'm really on the go and really need to stop. Instead, going to restaurants for me is about the experience. It's a date night or it's trying something new and it's all about that most of the time, and I don't do the other fueling kind very often. All of that to say that I really do know what Mike's talking about when he's saying that we want that authenticity, those experiences. That's what we crave. That's what we want when we are out having a nice dining experience, right? So I totally hear that. Thank you so much, Mike. You are always so fun to talk to. Everybody check out Mike, Menu Matters. He's on LinkedIn. He's on Instagram. Mike Kostyo. You will find him. Now, usually at this part of the show, I tell you what I'm going to be cooking this week, but I am really behind, and what I'm actually doing in the days ahead this week is some preliminary testing on a bunch of stuff, ideas that I've had, things I'm just trying out, kind of like a playing around in the kitchen sort of day. I'm going to be working on some meatloaf ideas that I've had, some rib ideas that I've had, some like bold dinner ideas. One of them involves salmon. One of them involves chickpeas. I know I'm not giving you very specific ideas right now of what I'm doing. I don't think it's because I know exactly. I'm going to sit down tomorrow and I'm going to jot out my ideas, sort of the preliminary stages. Usually when I start telling you guys what I'm cooking, I've already done some of the testing and I have like a more solid plan of what I'm actually making. So yeah, I'm not doing any photography this week or videos, just a lot of like playing around with things that have inspired me recently, tasting, making notes, and deciding where to go from there. That means it's actually a great time if you have ideas of things that you would like me to make, recipes that like you've had in restaurants that you'd want to make at home, or one of the things I'm really good at is taking kind of like complicated recipes that take a long time and making them more doable for a weeknight. They won't be exactly the same as the classic, but like simplified, like that loaf pan lasagna I did recently, which, you spend maybe 10 minutes putting together and then it bakes for a long time. But in the end, you have really, really good lasagna that tastes almost as good as the classic, I swear. So yeah, that kind of complicated recipe made more simple is something that I really specialize in. So yeah, if there are things that you would like to see, I will actually post in the Facebook group, the Recipe of the Day Facebook group right now I'll schedule it for when this episode goes live so that you can give me your ideas there. If you're not already part of the group, you can get there at facebook.com/groups/recipeotd. As to what is new on the site recently, not a lot. We were kind of slow over the holidays. We are gearing up, but there is an air fryer chicken tenderloins recipe that I told you about the other day. Actually, that is live on the Cookful, and there is a barbecue baked chicken drumsticks recipe. I love this one. This lets you have those like grilled flavors any time of year. You know, I live in Florida, so I can technically grill any time of year, but I know not everybody can get to their grill all year long. Certainly in my hometown of Winnipeg, Canada, not everybody grills all year, that's for sure. So if you want those flavors, baked barbecue chicken drumsticks is a great way to do it. That is on the Cookful now. And yeah, there's some new recipes coming up soon. I can tease you about them. There's a ground beef and mushroom skillet. Oh, a kotlete recipe. That is a Polish recipe that Marty loves that I have perfected with him. So yeah, those are some of the things that are going to be coming out soon. And yeah, I think we're just all getting back to normal now, looking ahead to an exciting year. Not a lot of plans yet for this year ahead. I don't know about you, but I am excited to see where we all end up and to see what we're all cooking. Make sure you are in that Facebook group and following me on social media. I am at Cook the Story everywhere that I'm at. That's TikTok, Pinterest, Facebook, and Instagram at Cook the Story. Oh, and I can tell you we're doing some fun stuff for like game day Super Bowl things coming up. There's going to be a series of wing recipes and then a series that I'm calling 12 game day recipes that you'll actually make. These are easy enough and tasty enough that you will want to make every single one of them. So those series are coming up soon on social media. Stay tuned for those. I'd love to say a big thank you to Mike Kostyo from Menu Matters for being an amazing guest as always, and a big thank you to you for listening. I'm Christine Pittman from cookthestory.com, thecookful.com, the all-new chicken cookbook, cookfor2.us, and this podcast, Recipe of the Day. I hope you have a great weekend. Let's get cooking.